Billy, we are just a couple of weeks away from the next step of the new season. The Red Wings training camp kicks off September 14th and goes through September 25th. They've got the NHL prospect tournament, they got their regular practices, and then the red and white game. And I have to ask, which of those are you looking forward to the most?
Personally, I'm most excited about the red and white game. For the reasons that we're going to get to a little later in this video, I am more personally excited about our NHL talent rather than our prospects.
That's totally fair. I'm really excited about the NHL prospects tournament, mostly because it involves a few other teams in Dallas, Columbus, and Toronto. So it's always exciting to see your young guys up against their young guys. So it's kind of like a little bit of taste of the new season. Even I know it's not, but it's like a little. It's the first taste of hockey, I feel like. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to. But another reason why I'm looking forward to it is because we're going to get to see some familiar names that we're going to talk about next. So we'll kick it off with who better to start with than the first pick that we had, Nate Danielson, our first round pick this year. He was the number 9 overall. How are we feeling about Nate?
I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like there are a lot of haters out there that can probably look back to just a couple years ago when everyone thought we reached on Mo Sider. Everyone's kind of feeling the same way about Nate Danielson. Oh, you could have gotten this guy. He's so good at goal scoring. Could have got this guy. He's so great at playmaking. Unfortunately, guys, not everyone can go out and score 40 goals in the NHL every year. You need the role guys. That's what we saw with a lot of the signings that we made. So it feels like Nate Danielson, I'm not saying he's destined to be a role player. I think he can be a great NHL player. He has, the great speed as a skater. He has the puck handling skills that you like to see. And pretty importantly, I think for our future, this is a neat little tidbit that I discovered by just looking at our entire roster. After I thought about it for a second, I saw him just like in the prospect tournament just a couple weeks ago. And he's our second right-handed center on the entire roster, with Austin Jarnik, who we know is probably, likely, hopefully, if he plays, it's going to be because a lot of injuries happen, not going to play. So I know that on this channel, I've kind of like stressed over and over here and there, like my level of appreciation for faceoffs. Getting a right-handed center into our system that can win some faceoffs would be great. Nate Danielson, probably not going to be that crazy high-end guy for us by any means, but again, you're probably just getting a great NHL player.
And it'll just be cool to see him actually get to play. Like I said, it's the main reason why I'm excited about the NHL prospects tournament. Is it's exciting to see him be competitive and be competitive with some other familiar names. Other familiar names being like Elmer Soderblom. We've seen him play a little bit at an NHL level. It's hard to miss him. He's going to be more than likely, I don't know, I haven't seen the other team's rosters, more than likely going to be the biggest guy on the ice, and hopefully he's one of the guys that we're talking about that can actually have a chance to maybe find a spot on the roster later in the year, definitely if there's injuries. But who knows? I mean, it could be one of those guys that step up, prove themselves, and if somebody else on the roster who makes the roster doesn't prove themselves, this could be Soderblom's first step of showing this year, I should be that guy.
I want to stress that I really do like Elmer Soderblom, but it does make sense on why we went out and made the signings that we did, is that this year it's no longer just kind of play the guys anymore. It's if you expect to make the playoffs the way that a lot of these fans do, unfortunately, I don't think Soderblom at this moment is that guy to go do that for you. Can he eventually? Yeah. Can he have an influence on this team this year? Absolutely. But as much as I loved him, there were still things that if you watched him, he came up just a little short on. Like he was a little weak on his skates. His puck possession game was a little weaker. For being such a big body, you would hope that becomes a good part of his game. Who developed that well for us? Michael Rasmussen. Michael Rasmussen in his first couple years, very, very similar situation to Soderblom. He wasn't as fast as he needed to be. It wasn't controlling the puck. So if Soderblom can do that and as well as get faster, when I was watching him, the way I always felt was when he was in the right place at the right time, he was making plays. His puck control, his shot, his general hockey sense seemed to be there, but it felt like his feet were just like a step behind here or there from being in that spot to make an impact on the play, and a play just kind of died. I'm not going to say it was a bad play, but potential of something great happening for us died, or something great for the other team did happen at that moment.
You mentioned a little bit of Rasmussen. We're going to talk about him again in a second because we're going to talk about Marco Kasper next, who only going to be in his second year. We hope he can be one of those centers that can be reliable in the faceoff dot. And this could be somebody who, like Soderblom, could be in the competition portion of it instead of just Nate Danielson only being 18 years old, who's just going to be showing what he's got. He's not looking for a roster spot, is our assumption. We would have all said that about Lucas Raymond a couple of years ago, but you never know. But the assumption is Soderblom and now Kasper are both going to be ones that are kind of maybe pushing for a spot if they can be a standout. And who are some of the names that he's probably going to be neck and neck with?
I think it's just going to be Veleno. I think both of them, ideally for this org, would be competing to be a solid number 4 center, which would then, like we said, move Rasmussen to almost anywhere in this lineup. But what's important to remember, guys, is that there are only 12 forward spots on a roster. We keep talking like, oh, yeah, I want to see Kasper in. I want to see Soderblom in. Oh, but we signed Sprong. We still have Fabry coming back. We signed Fisher. Like, names start to have to move. If you're locking in your top 6 and you're feeling confident in number 3, and then, you know, you traded for Costin, these spots start to fill up really quickly. So you're probably looking in like Fisher and possibly even Fabry. If Fabry continues to have injury problems, I could see him being like a wave or a very cheap trade out of here. I like Fabry. Let me stress that again. I like this player. I'm just recognizing the talent that's coming up, the talent that we signed, and where we are right now. So if Kasper can find his way to be that number 4 center, as much as it's a great thing, I think it brings along a lot of problems at the same time. And I feel like that's why we made the signings that we did this year. If we were very confident in Kasper, and I know this is months ago, and this player could have gotten so much better over this time, this training camp's going to be huge for him. But the fact that we did go out and sign another center, potentially in Compher, it means that, you know, you're moving a couple people down. Veleno is already struggling in general. I have Kasper not making it,
by
but
the
it's
way,
great.
which by the way, I'll just cut you off for just a split second. As of the making of this video, as you've seen, if you haven't heard the news, Veleno has re-signed for the season. I believe it's at minimum. I believe it's a minimum
like
contract.
800K. So nothing much at all.
I think it's 100. I think it's 825, and it's the 1 year. Definitely, let's see what you got deal from Yzerman. But as of this video, if you haven't heard, he is on the roster, so he needs to be factored in when we're talking about this.
Yep. Yeah. So ultimately with Kasper, I don't see him making the roster just because of like how many other problems as well as like the great things that we talked about.
And speaking of not making the roster, Sebastian Cossa, someone that we've been high on, we've been really hoping to see something from. I know people are going to be freaking out a little bit, and I'm kind of with you in terms of being a little bit concerned, not just because he was drafted in the first round, but you moved up to pick him in the first round. So the assumption would be that he would be showing some sort of brighter future by now. You'd hope he would at least be consistently competitive at an AHL level. Now, granted, 20 years old, plenty of time. It's a goalie. He could be a Vezina winner at 28. You have no idea. So at minimum, what are we looking for here from Cossa?
Just to be better. That's all I need. I don't need him to start in the AHL. I don't need the Griffins to be winning games because of him. I just need to see improvement at the age of 20. Putting a 19-year-old into the AHL, that's a lot. Like, I really feel like over the last couple of years, Red Wings fans have been kind of blessed with these young stars that have found their way into our system and started performing. You're looking at Raymond, you're looking at Sider. Like, these guys are still incredibly young, and especially for goaltenders, they take time. He's very far from a bust, but I'm telling you, if he goes back, and I know this is such a long shot, but you have to recognize it because it happened last year. If he goes back to the EHL again, I'm starting to throw up some red flags on, hey, was this not a great pick? Did we spend too much on something that isn't going to work out for us? And maybe, again, it pays off 4 years later after that. It's not what we're really here to talk about right now. We're talking about what he can do right here, right now. And I don't think it's to make this roster. I think that that's absolutely locked up by Husso, Reimer, and Lyon. And again, these off-season signings are telling you where these prospects are in development with the people that know better than you, that know better than me, that know better than the people on Twitter on how they're progressing.
The good news is he has time to develop. There's no pressure for him to perform at an NHL level, because at an NHL level, we've got Husso as the starter. That's the clear starter. At least that's all the assumptions. No idea what could happen once skates actually hit the ice, but it's assumed Husso is going to be your starter, and there's going to be a competition between Reimer and Lyon, which is, all the hate that Reimer can get, all the complaints on the signings themselves. These are two solid bridge players to kind of buy this system some time for Cossa to grow a bit. And if Husso can just be solid like he was last year, and then either Reimer or Lyon step up as a reliable backup just to take some load off of Husso, Cossa has, he has time. There's no pressure that, we're not looking up here with no backup thinking we need you on this bench. You need to step up. So hopefully at the age of 20, he still has a bright future. It's just the only reason that we're still talking about it in a way that sounds, I don't know, not urgent, but kind of disappointment, is the price that was paid. He wasn't picked up in the early second round. He didn't just fall to us at our pick. We paid extra. We paid a premium to get him when we did, and we took him over another goalie that at the time, especially, people were surprised that we didn't take when we traded up.
Well
So
said.
no rush there. Just get a little better. Real quick, if you are familiar with our videos, you know that when we post a video, we respond to just about every single comment. So please head on down there. We have a question for you. We want to know which part of training camp or what specific aspect of training camp are you the most excited about? Is it one of the specific days? Is it a player you can't wait to see on the ice? Toss it down there. We're going to tell you what we are looking forward to the most with training camp near the end of the video. So stick around for that. Toss yours down in the comments. So unfortunately, there's going to be a few names you're not going to see at training camp. Some names that you might have been excited about, some maybe you haven't even heard of. Who are a couple of those guys?
We're going to start off with Albert Johansson, out because we believe in injury. We did some research. We saw that he missed the last 18 games in Grand Rapids last year because of an injury. Nothing on the internet since that. So if you know better, please let us know in the comments and why Albert Johansson won't be there, because it's someone that I was excited to see. I've heard way too many people that know way more than I do about our prospects moving up that they were super excited about Johansson. And I discovered in our research of why he's not going to be there that Horkoff, our director of player development, actually said that he was on track to see NHL time. Obviously, we sold at the deadline, so bringing in any of our talent to see how they competed at the NHL level would have been great. So hopefully some positive news comes out about it soon. Hopefully he's playing in Grand Rapids again, performing well. And as much as it sucks to say, hopefully we aren't bad enough or injured enough again this year that we're going down to possibly our 10th defenseman in the entire lineup of our entire roster. So
next up, someone I know a lot of people want to see, not just at training camp. A lot of you want him up to the main roster. Simon Edvinsson, still recovering from surgery, is not going to be at the training camp. A lot to look forward to regarding Edvinsson. Unfortunately, not going to get to see him in these next coming weeks.
Yeah, we got to see him for 9 games. He had a fine NHL performance. I liked the way that he played. It wasn't anything statistically impressive or anything like that, but you saw that he had a good head on his shoulders. He played fine defensively. I think it's important to note that when he comes back from his injury, he's going to be our first call-up from the AHL. Puts him 8th in order because we have 7 up at the NHL level. But what does hurt him a little bit into this season is that Petrie acquisition, I think, just about locks him in the AHL, which I know I've already said, but I think it continues to prove that we would not have gotten Petrie if we truly believed that Edvinsson, was a great number 4, number 5, number 6 defenseman ready to go in the NHL. We want to keep putting these guys back into our farm system, have them grow a little more, get more time playing on NHL-sized ice at professional hockey rather than tossing them out there. And it's again for a reason that I went back to before. We're looking to make the playoffs. We are absolutely shooting for playoffs this year, and you can't just keep saying, well, toss in the young guy, toss in the young guy, toss in the young guy. We've done that, guys. We've done that the last few years, and we're never happy with the result afterwards. So it means you have to start to season these guys up and bring them up slower rather than plugging them in at the age of 20. He's 20 years old. That's so young. Yeah. You know what I was doing when I was 20? Nothing as good as this. so I'm going to give the kid time. Yeah, I was playing shell. I was so much further in my Be a Pro career than he was now. But yeah, I'm all about just giving Simon Edvinsson all the time. I think a lot of the expectations and such that we're starting to put on these players comes down to 2 great players in Raymond and Sider, and it's a tough expectation to start putting on everyone that comes through your org.
I want to do this one in one shot. Axel Sandin Pellikka, another first-round pick from the Red Wings this year, 18 years old, and he is going to be playing over in Sweden. So might be able to get some highlights, maybe something online, maybe it's televised. I'm not 100% sure exactly what he's going to be playing in Sweden, but won't be seeing it with his fellow Red Wings.
Nope. You can find him on Twitter, though. And I did look him up to again find out why he wasn't going to be there. Found out playing in Sweden. Thank you to the couple people on Twitter who shared that information. But
You mean X? It's on X.
you're right. But I did get to see a couple highlights, and the highlights absolutely matched the draft profile they had for him. Kind of that Chris Letang style, that offensively minded defenseman, shifty, great with the puck. And something that really stuck out, and something that I think is going to burn him a little bit. I mean, it hasn't burned Seider yet, and I said it was eventually going to burn Seider, but he goes for those high risk, high skill, high reward plays. He goes off the presumptions that someone on defense just has when they go to pressure him. Like when a winger goes to challenge him up top, a winger will slow down and kind of just put out their stick expecting you to dump it down the boards, right? And they're starting to cheat, right? They're like, oh, I can make this assumption. No, Sandin is just like, I'm just going to toe drag it over here. I'm going to skate down the middle. He's got great skating, and he has great playmaking. Like, he has that vision again that as soon as you give him the time and space, he's going to find his teammate for the shot. I don't think he himself has a great shot, but this kid's exciting. And having something like that to look forward into the future of the Red Wings, when you've already got the big man in Edvinsson, the big man in Seider, who like Wallander, Johansson could be up there too. And then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, we have this little like energy ball here that's just going to go off and create all these plays for us on the back end. So like for a power play, anything like that, I'm very excited about him.
Fans go into training camp hoping to get some off-season questions answered. What are some of those questions that we're going into training camp with?
I'm going to go with my biggest one, Rasmussen's spot. Does Fabry go down to a fourth line center? Like, is that something he really starts to drop down that far in this lineup? Is Rasmussen on the top line? Is he the third line center? Does Kasper find his way up to the fourth? I genuinely mean it.
How much does Veleno finally getting a contract complicate things for Rasmussen?
I think it has some impact. I think it has the same impact that Kasper does. I'm just saying Kasper because I'm more excited about Kasper than I am Veleno. I'm kind of off the Veleno train. He can get better.
I know we are, but I guess I'm thinking in terms of it affecting Rasmussen because the Red Wings are probably not nearly as done with Veleno as we are. They're probably done paying him a larger amount, but they clearly like him enough with as many players they have on this roster. They clearly are not done with him to the point where they want to keep him around and keep somebody else potentially out. So I would have to assume there's going to be that's going to be one of his direct competitions at center, at least.
I mean, I don't see a world where Veleno outperforms Rasmussen for a center spot. That's why I have Rasmussen at the fourth center. I just don't. Could it happen? Of course. We're here to speculate and give our 2 cents, right? I don't see it happening. I think Rasmussen's so good.
I don't want. I can be done with the player's previous performance, but I would absolutely love for Veleno to be like, this is my screw it year. I'm gonna do this. Like I'm gonna step up this year. And then Veleno has a locked in spot on the roster, and now we've got a million more questions of what we're supposed to do because now we can't get rid of Veleno because he's good.
You know what? I would see that, and what I'm hoping for in that more specifically is for him to find a role spot in this. I don't want to go into the year expecting 15 goals or 20 goals. I expect him to be able to go on to a PK. It's something that this team needs. If you want to earn a spot, you want to earn a paycheck, and you want to be on this team, I think that's what he needs to do. I think the goal scoring hope of him is done for me, but if you find a way, the way that Rasmussen did, to play more of an actual just special teams role, yeah, we got a spot for you, and I'd love to have you here. I think we absolutely need it.
He's got to get better at faceoffs too. And
yes,
speaking of faceoffs, another question that we have going into this that maybe we'll get some sort of indicator of, who is the number 2 center on this team? You signed Compher. You already had Copp signed. When we did our lines, it was almost completely interchangeable.
Yep.
Of which one was going to be line 2. So what do you think? Which one do you think is going to fall into that number 2 spot?
I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with Compher 2, Copp 3. And I think that that's just going to open up more opportunities for Copp to have, again, a bigger role on those PKs. I think special teams are incredibly important for this team. We've heard it from Steve. We've heard it from Derek alone, how important it is. And I like Copp. I also like Compher. So
which begs a sub question. Do you see either of them playing in wing instead?
Yeah, Veleno, I'll tell you this. If Veleno finds a way to find a place on this team and takes the fourth line center, you can move Rasmussen up to a third line center, and you can move Copp or Compher to a wing on the second or third lines. Yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. And that's like the joy and the fun of predicting these lineups is so much can happen with this team. The only thing that I feel confident and locked in on is Husso starting, Larkin number 1 center, DeBrincat number 1 wing, Wallman Seider combo. There are 5 spots on this team. That's it. Out of all, 17, 18 of those, 5 feel confident. You know, I feel like I could go to almost any other team and be like, yeah, that top 6 is set. That top 6 is set. Those are your top 4 defensemen. That's your starting goalie. That's your backup. And here we're like, who knows? We could do so much, and that's so much potential. It's so versatile for someone like Derek Lalonde to work
start
with.
In 2 weeks.
Yep.
At that point, tryouts start in 2 weeks, and there's no stronger spot that you can look at. You can look at the defense. 7 NHL caliber defensemen fighting for spots. That's one more question we're going to go into this. The tryouts start. You've got a couple, or a few that you could say are going to be locks to be somewhere in the 6. Who do you think is going to be the one that's the odd man out?
Who do I think it's going to be? I think it would likely be Mata. And I don't like that answer. I really don't. But I have this feeling in my gut that it often would be. I'm imagining Sherratt and Petrie going together. I think Hall has a better presence than people are really giving him credit for across the NHL. And Gostisbehere, Wollman, and Seider, I think, are locks to be in there. I think the 3 defensemen are there. Where they go, I don't know. What if Ghost and Seider play better than Wollman and Seider did? I'm totally open to, Gostisbehere is on the top line then. We're going to play whatever's best. It doesn't feel like there's anything locked like that. So then you have the competition between Petrie, Sherratt, and Hall and Mata. One of those 4 are often going to be the ones cycled out. And maybe there's a lot of experimentation going on early in the season. Maybe you're trying to find if Petrie and Sherratt still have that work together if they do it. And what I just thought of in this moment, I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm not assuming it's an issue. I'm just painting a scenario. What if last year Sherratt felt comfortable? Like, oh, what are they gonna do? Go bring this person up? And it just didn't lead to like wanting to change or wanting to be better, like trying to like flex to be better.
The competition wasn't there, and it's here now.
Yep. So maybe
the competition is absolutely there.
Maybe lighting that fire sparks up Sherratt to be better. I still stand by. He gets a lot of hate. I didn't like his season. I'm not going to defend it to all ends, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as what people made it out to be. You can bring me all the advanced stats you want. I'm sure I could bring up advanced stats about any great player in the NHL and be like, look how bad they were. Like, they're to direct you, but watch the game, watch the player, evaluate that way. That's my 2 cents on our defensive situation, I guess.
Yeah, when it comes to training camp, it's the main question that we're going to get answered is what does Malone and Yzerman see in terms of pairings? We're going to see some experimentation. I think you got 4 or 5 days of regular practice during this training camp, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of drills with a lot of different mixtures of pairings. Maybe we'll see something we do expect or don't expect. Maybe they'll mix up cider. Maybe they'll try a little bit of everything and see what they can keep footage of and see what looks good. Something else that we're going to see in training camp in terms of competition, this is where we're going to see the goalies either perform or not. And as much as it's not like, in my opinion, it's not like NFL preseason where you can say, well, it's just preseason, it doesn't count. Because I remember, and we looked it up before we did the video as well, when we were watching previous years, when it comes to goalies, we watched Cossa get lit up in the training camp. And, maybe you try to cope a little bit. Well, it's, training camp, but then he doesn't exactly have the year he would hope to have. And so you really hope to see Reimer, Lyon, and Husso, any goalie in the system, and anyone who's going to be at this camp, start to look good, because you're hoping that this team is only a few years away or a couple years away from kind of starting the playoff push in terms of already having made the playoffs. And now you're trying to be that team that can dig deeper into the playoffs.
Yep.
You'd like to have a goalie by then. And I don't know if Husso's still going to be, the guy in 2-3 years. You're hoping one of these dudes you drafted by then has imprinted himself as a long-term number 1 guy, and then you're only cycling maybe your backups. So that, I guess when it comes to the training camp question, I'm hoping someone looks good, man. I'm hoping someone looks like, hey, They're looking ready to go. They're looking to make a name for themselves this year, and I'm excited to see that. That's probably one of the things um, I'm more excited about. I know I said early in the video that we would tell you what we were most excited about from the training camp at the end of the video. For me, that first look at Larkin and DeBrincat. I don't care if it's the first break-in. I don't care if it's the first time they just warm up passing back and forth. I don't care if it's them just chit-chatting in the tunnel while they're waiting for the Zamboni to get off. I just want to see Larkin and DeBrincat together for the first time, because I said it in the previous video, I am high on that combo. I don't think it's going to be elite this year. I think it can develop into a pairing that could be considered elite in the years to come. And I'm just really excited for the first glimpse of them just starting to learn to play together. What is your thing that you're most excited about for the training camp specifically?
I just wanted to comment and say I think you're super excited just to even get a photo of them like eating breakfast together in the facility or something.
It can be
he's
anything.
a waffle guy, he's a pancake guy. It's perfect.
If they carpool, I'm gonna get goosebumps.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Do you think they have each other's phone numbers? No.
I hope so at this point.
But no, for real. My most excited part, Larkin and DeBrincat definitely up there, but I'm gonna give it to Berggren, and who Berggren's gonna be partnered with on these red and white games, like who the training camp partners are. Like, are we putting them with Piranha? Are we putting them with a goal scorer? Are we seeing him play with Veleno again? Like, I would be disappointed. I'd be disappointed if I saw him.
It'd be a bummer to see him get buried. It would be a bummer.
And but if you see him playing with like Sprong, what if Sprong is just, sniping, man? What if he's just getting all these nice feeds and he's just shooting super well, and you're like, well, there you go. You found the shooter for the playmaker. Or what if it's Raymond? Like, there are so many opportunities. We got like some great goal scoring potential guys across this team, and I think Berggren can absolutely excel with any of them. I'm super excited to see where he goes. I know I'm going to be looking for that 52 through that 360p stream that they'll have up on YouTube.
If you haven't already, head down to the comments. Let us know which part of training camp you're looking forward to the most. We can't wait to talk more about training camp as it happens. Starts in a couple weeks. We will see you guys in the next one. See you guys later.